welcome to the Technesthetic Podcast. I'm your host, Eric, and this is Randy.
Hello.
Today, we're going to talk about some tech topics, some tech news.
Techniques, dude.
Tech everything. We got Steam Deck stuff to talk about because the reviews are out, and we want to talk about them. We got Apple.
Shocker right there, right?
Yeah, I can't talk about anything other than the Steam Deck, practically. And then we got March 8th, Apple's event speculation. They're going to have an event. We're going to talk about it. Samsung Tab S8 Ultra View, because Randy bought one and he's got it right next to him.
Yeah, man, off the iPad, giving it a go, seeing if Samsung can, make
See
a
if they
permanent
can
switch, dude. Yeah.
make the switch like they did with the Fold, and then Elden Ring. We'll talk about that at the end. Just icing on the cake. So I guess we'll start talking about. Let's talk about Steam Deck first, man. Because
yeah, let's do it.
The reviews came out. I was very hyped because we knew they were coming. It was like the 24th, I think. So
Okay.
yeah, I was really hyped up for like last Friday, was it? And pretty sure I'm getting my dates right. It's last Friday, I think. Let me look. No, 24th was Thursday. 25th was
orders
Friday.
Went out. I know.
Yeah, so it was the 25th, I guess. But
sure.
So yeah, last Friday, like I was ready because it was like 1 p.m. that day, and I was like, okay, they're coming. Let's go, dude. And then Linus put one out, little clickbaity because he was like, what do you say? Like the Steam Deck's unfinished.
Yeah, like as much as he loves it, he still can't recommend it.
Yeah.
So I actually wanted to get your input on that, dude. Like
he did say
it seems like
Okay, go ahead.
It seems like Gamers Nexus put out like a similar a video in a similar vein.
So, here's what I think. Linus' video, it was clickbait, man. He gushed over it. He thinks they're going to sell like hotcakes. He just said, I'm not going to tell you to run out and buy one because of the software. Right?
So
he says it's for him. You know what I'm saying? He's going to try to make the Steam Deck his main machine for like a month. What a nut thing to do. But
it is kind of a nut thing to do.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to speak to that a little bit.
Okay.
So just to give some spoilers to our viewers, Eric has now convinced me to be back on the Steam Deck train.
Yes.
He has shown me the light. He has shown me why I should be excited for it, and I'm now excited for it.
There's a lot of good reasons.
Maybe some foreshadowing into the S8 Ultra review, because this is what scares me about the Steam Deck, right? Is like, I don't know how accessible this is going to be to the average consumer.
Okay.
And when I say accessible, I mean, like, I've watched some stuff online on like how to get programs to run or games to run properly that don't necessarily run right out of the box properly with all the features.
Right.
And given the type of person I am, that excited me because I like the ability to tweak and tinker and make things work properly. Shame on me because I was under the impression that it was pretty much a device that ran Steam Big Picture natively. But at the same time, like I have friends who game on PC, right? And they bought an Xbox Series X because they just wanted a seamless experience. They just wanted to sit down and play a game.
Right.
And I think that that's kind of, what people are going to be expecting with the Steam Deck. You know what I mean? It's just, I'm going to buy this thing and then I'm going to sit down and play games with it. And when they may try to go to play the game they want to play and it doesn't work the right way, then all of the, negative press is going to come out and it might not be a good look for Valve. And that's kind of what concerns me.
Okay, so I think this is I think it's a valid concern, but I think that it's a little bit of you're going to get a little bit of both with the Steam Deck.
Okay.
So it's absolutely a PC and it has the ability to give you those kind of PC pains. At the same time, if you stick within the Deck Verified realm, you're pretty much going to be getting a similar, like a console-like experience for the most part. Because those games are verified to work with the input methods that it has. You're not going to have any weird text being too small issues. You're not going to have any of those like other kind of weird PC issues with Deck Verified games. And they made it so there's like a Great on Deck section in the store on the Steam Deck, so you can look around at like the Deck Verified games, and then maybe if you want that console experience, pick from those. It's when you get into like the the gray area games that aren't really verified, that aren't really kind of like the unverified and like the kind of untested realm. That's when it's going to get a little bit more of that PC experience where you're gonna have to kind of fiddle with it, and like you and I, you know, we'll kind of embrace that. But like a lot of people, normal people that don't really care, they probably will never touch that.
Right. So now, let me kind of get into a more, you know, specific case, because, you know, it's a topic that's kind of important, and it's also a question that I have, you know. So like, for example, you brought up that like runs great on deck initiative that Valve was doing, which I think is great, by the way. You know, I think it's really nice of them to like get out there and be forthcoming and say, hey, not everything is going to be a great experience, but here are the games we verified. And I've noticed that Elden Ring is set to runs great on the deck. And then I sent that to my friend, and he made a little bit of a joke saying, like, that's obviously a lie because Elden Ring doesn't run great on anything, you know? So to that regard, do you know if they got easy anti-cheat working on Steam Deck, so there's multiplayer, or is it still a non-multiplayer experience?
This is the weird thing. So, I mean, if it's great on deck, I would assume that would mean that it just, like, you hit play. You don't have to fuck with it. Like, it seemed like the thing you linked me earlier, which was, you know, one of your YouTubers you watch had made it work on the deck, but it was like a weird hacky way to make it happen. You had to disable easy anti-cheat.
Yeah, so essentially what Eric is referring to is, and this may be fixed now, right? Because the YouTuber in question obviously has early access to the hardware, and he's probably had it for a while. So it could have been before, you know, Valve made a Proton update, you know, so on and so forth. But in order for him to get it running, he had to basically go to Proton in his Steam list, because I assume that Proton is like an SDK you download, or like a kind of a wrapper that exists like Steam DevTools does in Steam. And he had to turn on Bleeding Edge. And then he had to turn on Bleeding Edge updates and then enable Proton like easy anti-cheat something. And what that essentially did was it stripped easy anti-cheat from Elden Ring. So he was able to launch Elden Ring without easy anti-cheat enabled. But by doing so, he lost access to multiplayer. So again, I don't know if that's been rectified since then, because like I said, it now has like the green runs great on deck notification since then. So that may have changed, but I don't know if that's the case. And I wouldn't expect it to be the case with every game. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's definitely a case-by-case basis when it comes to the Steam Deck, I think.
So I'm looking at, I just typed in Steam Deck Elden Ring, and I'm looking around, and I see that, you know, people are still getting the frame pacing and lag, like the big frame drops. Like, you know how that one horse dude that we were fighting for a long time? Remember how it was lagging in like the overworld right there during that fight? It's that same stuff on the deck. So the game's definitely having those issues.
Yeah, I mean that's not really a fault of Steam Deck though. Like that's a fault of Elden Ring, you know, because
I know, and I'm just saying the issues also exist on there.
We both run the game on high end hardware. You know what I mean?
It doesn't matter what hardware you have. Yeah. I just thought like maybe there was a chance that it would run maybe even better. You know?
Yeah.
I was like, what if? But so yeah, the frame dips still exist on the deck. I haven't seen if multiplayer works, but I will say that easy anti-cheat is supported by the deck. So, you know, I would think if it's deck verified that it would be good.
I would think so too.
You know,
so,
it's like, why would they verify it if it couldn't work in its full capacity?
Yeah, so I'm going to err on the side that the YouTuber we watched was
like it wasn't verified yet, maybe.
Yeah, exactly right. Like it didn't go through the verification process yet.
Right.
Or alternatively, maybe he was running a different version of Linux. I don't know. You know what I mean? So anyway.
You know, did he have was he one of the blessed ones that got the deck early?
I don't know.
He might have even gotten Elden Ring early and played it during its...
He did get Elden Ring early. I know that for a fact.
Okay. So maybe he was playing like an earlier build of Elden Ring that before it got verified, and he had to kind of hackify it to work on the deck.
Right. That's possible. That's possible.
Who knows? I'm just speculating. But if it's verified, like you would think it's just click and play, right?
Yeah, I would think it would just work.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what one of my concerns is, right? Is like if the average consumer has a good experience, I think the Steam Deck is destined for success. But if the average consumer has to learn like, you know, rudimentary Linux, I don't think it's going to work.
Right. So I think there's, you know, it depends on what your measure of success is. I know for the niche community that is really interested in, I guess, the fact that it's like a PC but portable, which is kind of like me, right? Like I'm excited that it's an open platform that runs Linux, that has all this cool software, and it can run my Steam games, it can run my Linux apps. I'm excited for the fact that I can do whatever I want with it. And I think for that kind of like community, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be a success.
Right.
But mainstream success isn't really measured by that, right? So like a mainstream would be like a larger audience, like a more, you know how like, you know, it's like a lot of the consoles tailor to that like wide audience. And
Yeah,
I don't know
like,
if it's going to really breach that same level of market penetration.
that kind of goes back to what we mentioned before a couple episodes ago with the framework laptop. You know what I mean? Like there's that niche community who wants a fully repairable, fully tinkerable device.
Right.
But that isn't ever going to outsell, you know, the MacBook Pro or the Razer Blade or the Dell XPS.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like,
it's just, are they going to sell enough of them for them to stay in business, keep making it? You know what I mean?
Well,
is it worth it? Does it cross that worth threshold for the companies? And like, I don't know if Valve is going to deem it worth it or not, because like clearly they're not making a ton of money off of these, right? Like they can't be making a lot.
If you want my honest opinion, dude, I think that Valve's like main push of why this thing is so cheap and why they put in all the R&D and why they're doing this, and I'm pretty sure that you would probably tend to agree with me on this, is they're very heavily invested in operating systems, not Windows.
Right.
So
well, they've been for a long time, right? Like we've had Steam OS for a long time. It's not new.
Right.
So,
but the issue that you run into is like basically getting games to run on Linux. It's basically almost up to the community for most titles. You know what I mean? So I think that if Valve can get a console in people's hands for a reasonable price, I think that would really make Linux a viable option for developers to kind of take a look at.
You know, I think it's funny because, you know, every year the Linux community, they make fun of it. They make fun of people that say, this is the year of Linux gaming, or this is the year of Linux.
Yeah,
and like,
right? No,
it's been the big meme, right? Because it's never been even close to the year of Linux. But I'd argue that, you know, this could definitely change the Linux landscape. Because I know a lot of people that would be interested in mainstream running Linux. I'm one of them. But, you know, I really can't justify it if my stuff doesn't work on it. You know, like there's a lot of stuff that does work on it that I do use. And I think that I could get away with it 90% of the way. But like if my games don't run on it, but Proton sort of can solve a lot of that, you know.
I think that you and I are in the same boat, where like we run Windows out of necessity, not out of choice.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just Windows pisses me off, man. I literally just restarted my computer because it was locked up. And then when I turn it back on, Microsoft's trying to shove, hey, look, congrats, we're giving you a free trial of Microsoft 365. I'm like, decline, bitch. Keep your shit off my shit. They're like, hey, we want you to change your browser settings to Edge. I'm like, bitch, don't touch my browser settings.
Don't touch me, dude.
Get out of here. Linus Tech Tips just made a video about like how Edge is up in your shit, you know? And I'm like, yeah. Because like even by default, Edge will like take your browser data from other browsers that aren't Edge. Like by default. You have to turn that shit off. I'm like, what? They're harvesting your data like no matter what you do.
Really?
So, yeah, I guess I was like, what? I didn't know that. Like it was in the Linus video. So I'm like, shit, I got to go check my Edge settings to make sure they're not like pulling my Firefox data because they want to, you know, like it's some bullshit. So yeah, I've been trying to stay away from Windows best I can.
To that point, dude, you know, I recently did a home network upgrade, as you know, and like we had that discussion about like Facebook. I'm like, why are my devices pinging Facebook when I've never accessed Facebook? And then you told me about like how websites still, you know, have like like tracking pixels and shit for Facebook too. So it's
correct.
Like,
and so like that's the thing. So Facebook's following you around the web and profiling you and where you're going and what you're doing. And so like to avoid that, I recommended Firefox Facebook container, which basically takes all those Facebook elements and puts it in a container all on its own and just says like, no, you don't get to look at what this guy's doing. And I love that. And like containers in itself is pretty cool. Like if I, you know, like I open things in like certain containers, like say you want to open your work email in its own container, and then like that way, like you know your work stuff isn't really able to, you know, through cookies and other things, see what you're doing. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like there's
right,
just
right.
ways to kind of compartmentalize your web activities, and Facebook containers does that. So yeah, I mean it's that's why it's just Microsoft's been spookier and spookier with their stuff.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
Although I think that there are certain aspects of Microsoft that still have the best interest of the user in mind. You know, like I don't want to shit on Microsoft altogether because like I think that their Xbox division is doing great things with Game Pass, you know, so on and so forth. But just to kind of steer back to the topic to Steam Deck, I want to discuss battery life in 30 FPS mode, and I kind of want to get your thoughts on that.
Oh yeah, so my thoughts are most of the time, dude, I'm a sucker for 60 FPS.
I am too.
Let me tell you, man.
Really
so
am,
this is a direct example. So, you know, Monster Hunter, I played it on the Switch, and on the Switch they force you to 30 frames per second. Kills me, man. Kills me. And it's because I've experienced Monster Hunter at 60 and above. You know what I mean?
Sure,
Monster Hunter World, I could play it like 120. And then, you know, on the 3DS, this is another example going even further back. Like Monster Hunter Portable Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate for the 3DS was 30 frames per second. But if you, Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, if you had the new 3DS, you could go to a 60 FPS mode.
Oh.
That was like way better, right?
That's interesting because like,
Yeah.
Nintendo doesn't usually allow that, right?
Right,
Like,
but like in that specific game, they would let you get the benefit of the enhancements of the new 3DS.
like,
It was really nice. It was
I don't know if you remember that like speculation a while ago, but when like not the Switch OLED, but like the new Nintendo Switch came out, the one that had like the better battery life or whatever, that was just through processor improvements apparently, and like just like being like on a smaller nanometer or something.
Okay,
but,
yeah.
But they underclocked it and locked it to the performance of the standard one.
Yeah.
So they essentially, you know, just used it for battery life performance and didn't let the user choose if they wanted more performance or more battery life.
And that's kind of what you're stuck with on the consoles, right? Where the Steam Deck's like, we're going to let you push this thing as far as you want. And then if you want more battery life, it's your choice whether or not you want to lock that 30 frames per second or you like FSR, stuff like that.
To be fair, I mean, like, you don't console game that much, but on PS5 and Xbox Series X, nearly every game has a very rudimentary generic quality of performance mode where you can basically prioritize frame rate or prioritize native res.
Which is cool. I actually think that's a great change with the modern gen consoles.
It's pretty much just quality or performance, right? Like you don't have like a granularity slider for textures, for DO, for FOV, things of that nature. You know,
what bothers me about those is like the acceptance of 30 frames per second for your quality modes. I get it because like that's the only way you're gonna get like ray tracing and like 4K. You know, but most of the time 4K is checkerboarded and stuff on consoles anyway. But like I don't know, the 60 FPS modes like they're just like smooth as hell. It's hard to play at 30. It's hard to play at 30.
It is.
Like some games you can get away with it, but like it's just so like on the Steam Deck specifically, I'm gonna try to not do that. You know, I want to play at 60, and I think that to get better battery life, I think I'm just gonna eat the fact that my battery's gonna drain faster.
Sure.
And just like plug it in.
I forget what game Dave TD had up, but at 60 FPS mode, he was saying like an hour and a half of battery life, which is not that great.
That's like the worst case scenario. So you're using like because that's if you're pushing the chips like 15 watts or whatever it's got. Like, I forget how much on the total package. Like, the Steam Deck does the math for you. It'll tell you how much it's got. And it's like worst case scenario, full bore, it's like an hour and a half. So that's not a lot of time, dude. Like, that's not a lot of time at all. Because, like, think about it. You're going to have this thing always plugged in. And then, like, when you want to use it, you're going to have to unplug that bitch and then use it right then, you know? Like,
now, you can use it plugged in, right?
Yeah, of course. You can use it plugged in, and that's fine. And I'm sure that that's one of the reasons I was looking at battery banks that could like actually push a good juice amount of power out because, you know, it might be that I want to have an extended play session and I'm not home, you know, and
so like,
you know, it'd be nice to be able to just plug it into a battery.
this may be an unfair question, but I kind of wanted to ask you on the podcast.
Oh yeah,
It's not personal. It's a technical question.
sure.
Now, with the Steam Deck, could you also use like USB-C hubs with
Yes.
like USB PD pass through? Because like right now, my brain is already thinking that like, if I'm playing a game like I don't know, like say like I'm playing Factorio on the Steam Deck, you know what I mean? I'm gonna hook up my Tab S8 as the display for the Steam Deck.
That'd be really cool. Actually,
know
I
what I
want to
mean?
see you do that.
So
I think you can hook up. Yeah, that's a good question. I think that the answer is yes, right?
Okay.
Because like think about the Steam Deck dock in itself. It's going to be basically that, but
Okay.
nicer looking, right?
sure.
But like you don't have to have the Steam Deck dock. You can just use your standard like Apple one that you've got with power pass through, right? And it would be fine.
Okay.
So I don't see why not. I think I would have heard that it doesn't work by now if it wouldn't, you know?
Sure.
But yeah, that's a good use case. And a lot of people are going to use it like that. Like if they want to hook it up to a keyboard,
Right.
mouse, monitor, you know,
Right.
which I think is neat.
I don't know, man. Like now that I've actually taken a better look at it, I think I'm really more excited for it and like what you get for the cost.
Well, the value is ridiculous. It's honestly like it's half the price of any competitor to it. And I think that's huge. I think that the community behind it's going to be absolutely huge. You're going to have a lot of people putting cool stuff on it. I can't wait to see what the community does with it because they're going to go nuts with it, man.
So gonna go over some other stuff I've read since you got me on the Steam Deck hype train now.
Yeah.
I have since subscribed to the Steam subreddit, and as you know, that they took pre-orders on last Friday, so people have been getting them in their hands, right?
Yes.
Now again, you know, people don't complain if they don't have a problem. So like,
Correct. I've seen people complaining already. Yeah.
keep that in mind. You know, so like people have gotten their Steam Decks out of the box with stick drift.
Correct. So let me
that's,
comment
you know,
on it. So
okay, yeah.
So one
please
of
do.
the things that Valve came out and said was that in one of their latest software updates, they erroneously modified the dead zone on the joysticks. So
Oh, really?
it was yeah. So what they've done in a software update since is widen the dead zone by default a little bit. And the joysticks in the Steam Deck are by the same vendor, the same manufacturer that does all your major controller joysticks.
Oh, really?
So yeah, and so this is actually a criticism almost, but not really, because there's not really another competitor out there that makes sticks. There's everyone's using the same guys to make
even
their
Nintendo,
sticks.
because like Nintendo is notoriously bad.
People are saying even Nintendo. So
Wow.
it's wild because it's like one guy's like, well, how come my Xbox 360 never drift? You know, my controller.
Is it just a bigger dead zone?
And so, well, that's a good question. It might be that the software configured dead zones do make, you know, a difference, right? That you can
Sure.
tweak that, and you can tweak it on the Steam Deck also, just to be clear.
Okay.
So, you know, Valve has put out, like, if you still have drift issues, you can configure your own dead zones and
Sure.
go through the calibration and stuff. And I think that's great.
I think so too.
But like ideally, I don't want like any kind of wobble to like. I don't want the drift. Oh my god, I don't want drift. So I
No
hope
one
it's
does.
not bad.
No one does. Yeah.
So I think it's a non-issue. I think their software update's going to fix most people, and then I think that anyone else with a problem, they could either do a calibration where they tweak their own dead zone, or they just send it back to Valve or whatever. You know.
So
no big.
see, like that kind of scared me a little bit because, you know, you and I were both early adopters of the index.
Index, right?
And stick drift is the reason why I don't have an index anymore, as you remember.
Yeah, so I'll say I know that you've had a bad user or not user experience, but the tech
customer
support,
service experience, I would say. Yeah.
I'd say that Valve's on point with the Steam Deck's customer service so far. They were in the Steam Deck subreddit replying to the guys complaining about it. So
I was just gonna say, so for the viewers who don't know, I had pretty bad stick drift on my index, and I reached out to Valve, and Valve was like, "You need to send your whole bundle back." And I was like, "But it's just the sticks," and they insisted that I send my whole bundle back. and I sent my whole bundle back, and it was like, I don't know, like 3 or 4 weeks, and I didn't hear back a word from them. Like they confirmed they got it, but I didn't get like an RMA receipt or anything.
Yeah.
And they essentially said, oh, like it fell through the cracks. We're sorry. But unfortunately, we don't have any to give you right now. So we could just give you a refund, or you can just wait. And I said, just give me a refund.
Wow.
So that's essentially why I don't have a index right now, was because of stick drift. So when I heard that the Steam Deck was having stick drift, I was a little, my butthole puckered up a little bit.
Well, don't freak out yet. Don't freak out
so.
yet. And the nice thing about the Steam Deck is its repairability is much improved. So,
sure,
the sticks will, we'll be able to get them later and then replace them out of warranty period. Like, but obviously they're under warranty right now, so you could just, work with Valve and get like the RMA set up. But like in the future, when you're out of warranty and you get drift, like that's one thing. Like the Joy-Cons, the advantage is like you could just take them off and put new ones on, and your Switch is good. Can't really do that with the Steam Deck.
Right.
So, yeah, but I don't think it's a problem, man. I think that it's going to be fine.
Cool.
Yeah. But yeah, can I just say something real quick?
Absolutely.
Steam Deck. So I'm on the subreddit for it, and like, dude's got freaking Nintendo Switch games working like flawlessly on this thing already.
Really?
Yeah. Like what? Like
For
this guy
what
says.
Emulator?
This guy's there's only Yuzu and like Ryujinx.
Okay.
Those are the two, and like this guy's got like Metroid Dread running 60 FPS with Vulkan under Vulkan using the Yuzu emulator. I'm like, damn,
that's crazy.
Dude. Like this thing's already like beating the shit out of out of the Switch, man. So I mean, this is one thing. It's not going to be easy to get those Switch games to work. I'm going to tell you right now.
Are you concerned about the screen? Speaking of the Switch, because like the Switch OLED has an amazing screen.
So I'm still concerned about it because like I can't tell how good it is through the videos that I'm watching. Like it doesn't look good in videos. It doesn't look
good in videos at all. It looks like it lacks contrast. It looks like it lacks brightness.
Right.
It's really hard to tell PPI through videos. But I know I've seen some people who are like, I don't know if I call them display snobs. Yeah. And they said this screen is not good. Like the screen is definitely where they saved a lot of the money. So
yeah, I think that's a big shame, man. Like it's one of those things that, one thing that I think is interesting is Gaben said that the most expensive Steam Deck was the most sold, the most bought.
Right. Well, that makes sense, right?
Well, he didn't think it was going to be the case, so it surprised Valve.
Oh, okay.
And so, they're exploring the idea of making even more premium Steam Decks. And I think that
kind of fucks up people who bought them now, right?
Well, no, what he's saying is like, well, it depends, right? Like it's really for the future, right? Like say they make Steam Deck 2 or whatever.
Sure.
And because they were talking about like, well, are you, because Gaben was interviewed recently and they were like, well, do you have any plans for like a Steam Deck 2? And one of the things was, well, technology is always advancing, and he kind of hinted at if new chips come out that he can throw in a Steam Deck like device, like they'll do it. So I think they're going to make a Steam Deck 2, and they might explore more premium options if they do, but still retain cheaper options for those that want to hit those cheaper price points, right?
Sure.
But the fact that the community is so interested in maybe more expensive premium options means maybe later we can get Steam Decks, maybe Steam Deck 2 with like OLEDs or like better displays. And I like, honestly, if I had to think about one thing to upgrade with the Steam Deck, it's the screen. Like I like this, once I get the Switch OLED and I was like, man, this is gorgeous.
It really is, isn't it, dude?
Yeah, it's so good. Like the Switch OLED looks so good. I'm like, man, hopefully somebody out there crazy mods like the Switch OLED screen into a Steam Deck.
I mean, I'm not sure if that's possible. Like they're different ratios, right?
Yeah, you're right. One's 16 by 10, the other 16 by 9. So yeah, but maybe you can get like a 1280 by 800 OLED somewhere. Probably not, right?
I don't know, man. You'd be surprised the shit you can get on like AliExpress and all that nonsense.
Yeah, maybe
right?
somebody's gonna like throw an OLED in the Steam Deck, like DIY. There's gonna be some hacker community shit out there.
Hacker man, dude.
There's some some of the maker community out there is going to do some cool stuff. But yeah, that's the one thing I kind of wish was better on the deck. But people, it seems like people aren't like that upset about the screen. People say it gets bright enough.
Works, right? Like
the anti-glare coating, people said they like it.
Now that's only on the premium versions, right?
Correct. The 512, I think, is the only one that got it. They said like outdoors it helps.
Okay.
Because you don't get that like straight reflection, like so it's like much easier to see. I'm like, okay, well that's cool. I mean, that's the point of the anti-glare screen, I guess, is if you're kind of outside, but it can't get that bright. So I don't know.
I mean, for those of you who don't know, I've been playing a little bit of the new Destiny expansion, and like I think that's going to be great on Steam Deck.
So let me tell you,
you know what I mean?
This is a problem. So like Bungie's already put out that they don't want to support the deck. They use what anti-cheat do they use? I think people said that it would work on the deck because through Proton it like their anti-cheat would work, but they already put out they don't want to do it. Now for you it won't matter because you'll probably just do a Steam stream to it.
Well, apparently, IGN put out an article 12 hours ago that says Destiny 2 cannot currently be played on the Steam Deck, and Bungie issued an official warning. Anyone who tries to circumvent this will be banned.
Yeah, that's so stupid, isn't it? Yeah. Well, they're just saying if you try and like run it through Proton or in it, like if you try and force it to run on there, and we catch you, you're in trouble.
Yeah,
I get it.
That's unfortunate.
It is, but it's not going to stop you from streaming it to it, right?
True.
People are speculating that PlayStation are trying to find a portable way to play Destiny, and the Steam Deck counters that. I'm like, okay, what? That's kind of wild speculation, but who knows, right? Because I guess Sony owns Bungie
Sony just bought Bungie.
Yeah. So who knows? Maybe they are gonna make like the PSP Vita 2 or some shit in the near future, but I doubt it. Like, why would Sony come out with another portable, man? The Vita flopped hard.
I liked my Vita, dude. I really did.
Well, the Vita, when it launched, was gorgeous. It was OLED. It was like
touchscreen on the back. The games were really good. It was basically like a almost a PS3 in the palm of your hand.
It hadn't. Yeah, it should have been fantastic, but they just didn't have the games. And honestly, the UI kind of sucked. It was like I didn't like the little weird like M&M pills floating around and you poke them and shit.
Yeah,
like,
it wasn't that good.
No,
that was definitely a weak point.
The only highlight I can say about the Vita was that the homebrew community, they still use it.
Dude.
Yeah, like the Vita's still alive and well homebrew because it's like a emulator beast and people are using it. But I still have my Vita. And it's just kind of a collector's item at this point. I barely played any games on it because nothing really came out. Like I played my PSP more, but I hacked my PSP. So
you know what I still have? I don't have my Vita anymore, but I have the Nvidia Shield tablet.
Yeah,
and I have the Nvidia Shield, like that big chunky handheld, dude.
Yeah. Oh wow, you got the chunk one.
Yeah.
So yeah, we talked about this earlier in another.
It's funny because like if you go to connect Moonlight to like GeForce Now, you have to put in that code. You know what I mean? The logo that comes up to connect it is literally still that first version Shield from like 2013.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's funny, man.
So we good on deck? You want to keep talking deck? Before we get off of like computer, PC gaming topics, I want to sidebar to something that wasn't on our docket.
Yeah,
I want to talk about that Nvidia cyber attack leak.
I didn't see it, man.
Yeah, so essentially, the too long didn't read is apparently some cyber group got into like Nvidia files and they're ransoming that they remove the crypto mining lock from cards.
Okay.
Because it's a software lock, right? It's like firmware locked. Or they said that they got a big folder from Jensen's laptop or something, and they're gonna like slowly leak out data.
Well, that must be where, because I heard the DLSS source code was leaked.
Yes, and like Nvidia like called their bluff, so the first thing they did was leak DLSS source code.
Fuck yeah, fuck yeah, dude! I'm so glad that leaked. Hopefully AMD gobbles that shit.
Yeah. So yeah, dude. So
that's fantastic.
But what also leaked is the 4000 series like wattage and stuff.
Oh shoot!
Apparently, there's a card on the roadmap that for release in September that may have an 850 watt TDP.
Oh my god!
To put that into perspective, a 3090 is 350 watts.
Oh my
the reference
Dude,
one.
why do I need like a whole fucking power supply just for my GPU?
Again,
I've done it before, but what?
Yeah. I was gonna say when I ran 3 Titan X's, I had 2 power supplies on my old computer.
Yeah, I know.
But anyway,
I did the same shit.
yeah. So people are speculating things like 80,000 CUDA cores in that guy, just like based off of like, you know, like power scaling.
This got to be like a business card, right?
Well, you would assume that a business card would be less TDP, right? Because it has to run cooler and stuff.
Oh my god, maybe you're right.
A Quadro.
Do you think this is like the next Titan?
So like people are going to say like this is like the 4090 or whatever, and the 4090 is just supposed to be just. They're apparently going to market it as what can we do if we had absolutely no like we held nothing back.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
No way.
So, but like the part of me that's like super concerned is like we don't even have air coolers now that can handle like 425 watts that well.
Is this gonna be like a 4-slot card? Like
I don't know because like yeah, well like that's my point, bro. Because like for the viewers who don't know, I have a 3090 Strix that has 123% TDP.
Yeah.
And on the stock air cooler, it can't really handle it at 120% TDP. So I run it at like 105. Because like I don't get that many frames, and like the temperature goes up like 25 degrees.
Yeah.
So I don't know how we would ever cool 850 watts on anything but a water block. So I kind of want to almost call like that's not a reality. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
that'd
we
be
might
too
see
much,
like
man.
we might see like a 4-slot 500 watt card. I think that's probably more in the realm of possible. But I think that the 850 is just like
what if they
like a theoretical limit or something like that.
What if they built it?
Card like that.
What if they built it for water? Like just water. Like
I don't think they'd make a reference
cool
card like that.
Well,
I just don't think that they would do it.
I don't know how they're gonna air cool it. So
like I would see like a 4-slot 500 watt card. I think
dude,
that may be
yeah. Who's gonna take 4 slots for this?
I would.
I mean, I'd put it on water to make it, you know.
Well, yeah, but like I'm just saying, people
I know what you
mean.
mean.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's just
what else
wild.
are you using PCIe slots for? Like Thunderbolt ports or like a Wi-Fi 6E card? Like, what else are you using it for? You know what I mean?
I mean, I'm using it for my the fuck's this thing? The AverMedia Live Gamer 4K capture card, but that's it.
I just use a Camlink 4K.
Yeah, which is fine. You know. Actually, Camlink 4K is really good, isn't it? It's pretty good. But yeah,
I think it works fine.
So
it works well enough.
The only thing I heard about the Nvidia leaks was included within the DLSS source code was a little bit of hints at the next Nintendo Switch within it.
Oh yeah, Nintendo Switch 2, but like the Nintendo Switch 2 is like the like most confirmed unconfirmed device.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly. That's what the meme about it was. But
yeah.
I mean that's interesting. I think that the handheld market is where you need this sort of AI upscaling, you know, especially if you want to break. Well, like you were saying with FSR, it's really hard to render at a lower resolution than already low as hell.
Right.
So
right. So like it doesn't really benefit that well on the Steam Deck. I mean, it'll help out a little bit, but like
I think where it would
already pretty low.
I think where it would be great is if you had like a 1080p display, but then you upscaled like a 720p. To 1080. Like if you actually increased your resolution of your mobile display, that would be where like an AI upscaling would be good. But other than that, like so it's like why do it otherwise? I don't know. But you know, don't a lot of Switch games run below 720p?
They do.
Yeah, it looks terrible.
Yeah.
It's like
and as far as I know, the Switch doesn't really run an upscaler. It's just what you get.
No, it's just you're getting the raw dog. Yeah. Like this is what you get, and that's why DLSS is going to be like kind of essential. And yeah, it's going to be really good in docked mode too, because like if you're docked and maybe it will upscale to 4K. You know, maybe it'll take a 1080p stream and upscale to 4K, and then you have that 4K Switch that everyone talked about.
Yeah.
Because I never believed a 4K Switch would exist. You know what I mean?
I don't
Like,
think
come
so
on.
either. Yeah.
But like if you throw DLSS into the mix, then okay, yeah, technically kind
could be a
of.
possibility. Yeah.
And I think that's a game changer if they do that. All the consoles should run DLSS or similar technologies.
Yeah, but the problem is that they all suck the teat of AMD, and
Yeah, the AMD teats.
FSR is still like DLSS 1.0. Like it's like DLSS 0.8 to me.
It's not even because
like
DLSS 1.0 was better than FSR.
Yeah.
Now DLSS 2 is like on another realm.
Yeah,
like
DLSS 2.0 is like I run it all the time because I can't even really tell that much. You know, like the problem with DLSS 2.0 is some games, God of War comes to mind, right? Where DLSS 2.0 sometimes applies sharpening, and
I
like
hate that. Yeah,
God of War doesn't let you adjust the sharpening, but some games do.
Right.
So again, you know, it falls back on developer implementation a lot.
Correct. Yeah, sharpening is one of those things that I'm very against over sharpening. So
Same.
You know, if the game like throws too much, what was the recent game that sharpened too much that I had to dial it back? Halo Infinite? Yeah,
maybe
it was
Probably.
Halo Infinite because they have a sharpness, and by default, I thought it was a little hard, so I had to tone it down a little bit. But I do like some sharpness, right? Like,
yeah, I mean everyone does, right?
Yeah,
but it has to be tasteful. You know what I mean?
To me, Halo Infinite was over aggressive, which for a game like Infinite, it kind of just aids the readability of the game.
Sure.
But like aesthetically, it's worse.
Right.
So I
vibe with that. Yeah.
I'm like, I don't care about my competitive edge. I just want it to look nice. I'm already good enough. I don't need no sharpening.
Yeah. No, I vibe with that. So one more PC topic I want to cover, and this could be brief, and because like I don't want to get like super political, but Biden gave his State of the Union last night, and the CEO of Intel was actually at the State of the Union.
Oh wow!
So
what's he doing there?
I'm not sure if you caught it, but he talked about how Intel. He was talking about like creating U.S. jobs and all this stuff.
Okay.
And he was speaking to Intel opening up a cutting edge, multi-billion-dollar silicon factory in Ohio. And they're going to be making these, you know, advanced chips to make America, you know, a mecca for high-end silicon again.
So this is great, man. You know, I think they've been talking about this for a while, right?
They have.
So I mean, I think it's a good thing, right? It sounds good.
Yeah.
Let's do it. I mean, because we've been importing silicon for a long time, and it's turned out to be a problem, especially during the pandemic.
It's exciting, dude. I think it's really exciting.
So I think this is absolutely great. It's going to be good in the long run. I'm glad they're making these investments. It's going to be good for Ohio.
Speaking of investments, you know, not stock advice or anything, but based off of that and based off of Intel's roadmap, leaked roadmap, where they say that it's going to be more efficient than M1 by 2023. I bought some shares of Intel, dude.
So I'm going to say that I think Intel's a good buy, but this is not financial advice.
Yeah. We are not financial advisors.
No,
we're just talking about
this
what
is just
we do
speculative.
with our own money.
Exactly. So, it's really. You know, Intel, I think, are going to be doing great things in the next 3 to 5 years.
Yes,
they've kind of been in a hole for the past 3 years or so, and they finally got to the point where they're digging themselves out. Like they kind of hit their lowest low when Apple ditched them, right?
Do you feel like do you feel like that's a tech trend? Because like I feel like there was a time where like during like Bulldozer and the FX 8350 and like Viscera, when AMD was like at the lowest of low, and then they clawed themselves out and like leapfrogged ahead. And like I feel like Intel, it's now Intel doing that. Yeah,
I feel like AMD has had their kind of longest stride in a long time with the launch of Ryzen and things like Threadripper.
Right.
And you know, everything, even their GPUs are getting a little bit better. So I think they've hit their longest stride as far as like actually being the choice for the gamer. In a long ass time, because like to me it's been Intel basically for a long time. Like I didn't have the Bulldozer chip, but I had like the one before it, like the Phenom 2X6 or whatever. And like that was a good chip, but it was the bargain chip. That's why I bought it, because it was like my first custom build. And but But like, yeah, Intel's been the choice. So it's kind of a leapfrog thing you see, and now it's Intel's turn. Like they're really coming back with a vengeance. This is great because if they can compete with M1, like I've been saying for a long time, ever since M1 came out, there hasn't really been competition to me against M1. Like they've been the leading, and like no one's really kind of listened to me on that because like no one cares about the Apple product. At least some of my friends, right? Like they just don't care about the Apple product. But like for me, that is like kind of platform agnostic. I just care about the technology. I recognize the M1 for what it was, which is a killer chip, like price to performance ratio, and also in just like power. What do you call it? Shoot, I've already lost it. But the efficiency of it was just like performance per watt. That's what I meant.
Yeah,
is just busted. So like, but like if Intel's coming back, that's great. I want to see x86 come back and be stronger because it seems like ARM was starting to dominate, and that's scary because I run a lot of x86 applications, a lot of my legacy stuff that I want to be able to run into the far future would be kind of dying out if like the only thing keeping them around was the potential for things like Rosetta 2, which could, do the translation layer stuff. And I got to say, like, translation layer technology has gone a long way with the rise of Rosetta 2. Now you have Proton, which isn't really doing like an architecture translation as much as it is like a Windows to Linux translation sort of thing. But it's just interesting what we can do at the software level. And, Rosetta 2 probably does a little bit of magic within, like, Apple Silicon. I wonder if they have, like, a hardware component to that translation layer built into Apple Silicon.
Right.
Or if it's something that, like, Microsoft might be able to leverage if they can write, like, their own translation layer that's better than what they got on, like, the Surface X or whatever the hell they made.
Yeah, that one's not that good.
Yeah, I've heard, like, bad things.
Yeah.
So it's like... But like maybe with software wizards out there, we can actually get that shit going, but we won't have to. If x86 becomes as efficient as these ARM powerhouses,
sure.
And now you have like the big little benefits with Intel, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's fantastic. Like ARM's been doing that forever now. And now they do it in the desktop with the M1, and it's just like been really good. And now that they're doing it with 12th gen, it's like, wow, this is actually kind of busted.
Yeah.
And then, so I've been wanting to, it's like, damn, dude, you made me want to upgrade.
It's so good, dude. It's so good.
Yeah. So
I can't stress to you how amazing.
Was it the thread director and shit?
Yeah, thread
like,
director and this 12900K is, dude. I can't tell you how great this is as just a desktop experience.
Yeah. I believe it, man. It's definitely going to be an upgrade for me one of these days. Once the 5950X feels a little bit stale, it'll be upgrade season.
I mean, now would be a time to do it because the KS came out.
Oh yeah, is that a hot item? Is that a hot item?
So essentially, it's a 12900K that Intel binned.
Oh, okay.
So it guarantees 5.5 gigahertz cores and stuff, but you're just getting a better bin, right? So
yeah, I already told my buddy Alan that I was like, I need an upgrade, bro, for Amanda, really, because she's running like a really old chip.
Sure.
I forget what it's like, a 7700K, man.
Sure.
And that thing's seen basically it's at the end of its life. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like her computer sounds like a jet engine going off. Like,
dang, dude.
It's like dying. And I'm like, man, let's build you something a little bit nicer, a little bit quieter. You know, it like you're literally playing Lost Ark and your computer sounds like it's about to take off. Like, so I was like, it's time. So it's going to be her before me. But I'm definitely going to be playing with Intel soon. Let's just say that.
You should, dude. Hell yeah.
Anyway, let's move on though. Let's move on. So I want to talk about this real quick because there's not a lot I have to talk about. But I want to say the Apple event. So
sure.
Today they announced Apple officially announces March 8th event. Peak Performance is what they're calling it. Okay. So based on...
When is this event? Sorry,
it's March 8th. So for those that want to know what day it is, it's next Tuesday. Okay. So
pretty soon. Pretty
soon. Yeah, it's coming right around the corner. And, I would suggest we do a podcast next week, but maybe it won't be worth it. So... It depends on how hype
see.
the
Yeah, we'll
announcement
see,
is. If the announcement's mega hype, maybe we'll want to talk about it.
Yeah,
so
maybe.
maybe not. If it's just like, it might just be people are speculating, okay, well, they'll probably put like an M1 Max, M1 Pro in like a iMac or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
If some of the speculation is to be believed, like Snazzy Labs put out, they might even do like the M1 Max where you have like double M1 Maxes in like an iMac or something.
That'd be interesting.
Well, I mean, that could be
Crazy
very interesting.
Yeah.
So, I mean, people are begging Apple for a 27-inch iMac. The smaller ones are nice. They're sexy, but they're not workhorse machines.
Which was this one?
I'm saying like the
smaller IMAX?
smaller
Yeah.
iMacs, right? What do they get? They got like the smaller displays and stuff. They're
Yeah.
very nice. They want that, but 27 inches and way more powerful, right?
Mm-hmm.
They might even equip it with the better display technology they've been working on with the mini LEDs. So that might be probably the most exciting product.
Sure.
At least in my opinion. They're talking about also, we're expecting iPhone SE 3. This is what I'm looking at 9 to 5 Mac, their information on it. They're talking about new iPad Air, but really it's just the Macs that are coming out, right? The new Macs with Apple Silicon. And I don't really think we're going to see like the M2 yet. I don't think
that's kind of what I would like to see personally.
Well, I'm personally interested in the M2 Air.
That
That's
would
what
be
I
the one
want
I
to
would
see.
get. I think, especially with like, how I recently got things like
Right.
Moonlight working and stuff pretty well.
Yeah,
I
I
think
want
the
to
M2
see
Air is where I want to live.
the M2 Air, like, because I like the M2 or I like the M1 MacBook Pro, but like Amanda has the Air, and it's kind of like, I don't know, it's just like the price on it is like right there in that sweet spot, and the new Airs look super nice, like the aesthetic of them,
The leaked ones, or
the
whatever?
leaked ones. If they look like that,
Can you
let
pull
me-
up a leaked
yeah.
one? Is that possible?
I'm gonna see if I can. So, okay, hold on. I'm trying to find the leaks.
Sure.
So it's gonna take me a second. God dang it! It was like a redesign. Okay, here we go. So this is 9 to 5 Mac again. So I'm pulling it up on the good old Firefox. So let me actually let me get the window so it's not all weird. 1 second. So there we go. So this is like the leaked image here. I don't know if this is a render or what. I mean, it looks like you took the MacBook Pro design a little bit.
Okay.
And so MagSafe and stuff. I don't know if there's more to it than that. But if
Yeah,
they
yeah,
go
that
with
looks
this
good.
design language, it almost
Yeah.
looks like an iMac.
How do you feel about
or
the white
whatever.
display? Do you think that that's going to be a thing? Because that's how the iMacs are, right?
I wouldn't be surprised if they made it a thing. They would probably follow the design language that
iMacs
they've
have?
used already.
Sure.
Yeah, they definitely might. So like this is just some renders. So here's where they come from. Leaker John Prosser. He has a mixed track record when it comes to these things. So
He's like he runs Front Page Tech.
says
like
has
on
created
YouTube.
renderings.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this is actually fact or if this is just somebody's speculation. But if it
Ooh,
looked like this,
I'd buy it.
I mean, it just looks
Look at that
super
yellow
sex
boy, dude.
appeal. Well, yeah, because they're using the same kind of colors as like in these renders.
iMacs, yeah.
I don't know if they're going to end up looking like this, but if they do, man, like, I don't know. It's kind of clean.
It is really clean.
It's
dude. It
kind of
looks really
clean. And the
good.
M2 is likely to
nice,
be
dude.
like really, really, it's probably going to hit that same performance like sweet spot that the M1 did.
See, I'm curious if they're going to wait till September so the M2 has ARM v9. That would be insane. Remember we talked about that in a previous podcast?
Yeah, but what was the hype about it? I forget.
Security, but also 15 to 20% less overhead. So if
Oh
they
my
didn't
God.
change anything, right? Like if everything stayed the same on M1,
Right.
but M1 just ran ARM v9 instead of ARM v8, it would be already 15 to 20% faster
Oh
just
my
from
God.
running an ARM v9 instruction set.
That'd be
So
insane.
yeah, so
That'd be wild. So yeah, hopefully, I mean, let them wait for that.
Yeah.
Like I want to see that. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so but these ones are likely to be going to be like your M1 Max kind of chip.
Yeah, because
within the iMac. That's cool.
The Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, like the one that's in the S22 Ultra and the Tab S8 Ultra,
Right.
that just came out in January, is still ARM v8. So
Okay. Yeah. So speaking of Tab S8 Ultra, man, I think that'll be our next topic because until next week, we won't really have much more to say about the Apple thing. So
yeah.
let's talk about that, man. So the
Sure,
Samsung Tab S8 Ultra, you went out. Well, you didn't go out, did you? Actually, it was at Best Buy.
It was at Best Buy.
You pre-ordered it, right?
To that Best Buy pickup thing.
Yeah, Best Buy. So we talked about this last podcast. Let me just pull it up. The Tab S8 Ultra. So let's just look at it. I'm on the buy page again. So just for the podcast reference, it's
Dude,
the big
who
one.
wouldn't be on the buy page, dude?
Great. Who wouldn't be on it? Maybe they wouldn't be on it if they were already on the checkout page. You know what I'm saying?
That's true, dude. That's true.
So tell us about it, man. So you're holding it. You're holding it, not really. You're looking at it because I can tell. I'm on a duo call with him on it.
So basically, we're using a duo call, a little behind the scenes here, to like monitor each other and to see. So I just have like a visual of like what gets pulled up on the stream and to see our angles and stuff. But I'm running that on the Tab S8 Ultra, which is next to me.
Yeah, and it's using that like face tracking thing.
Yeah,
where it like follows you.
Yeah, I mean, like, let's be real. They got that from Apple center stage, but it's nice to see that they take a good idea and they implement it.
Exactly.
So, for long-term listeners of the podcast, you guys should know that I'm a huge proponent of tablets. Been pretty much an exclusive iPad fanboy for 5 years now. And,
it's been your life companion.
It has been my life companion, dude. And like,
this is wild.
Yeah, and like it's basically for a few reasons, like just to recap a little bit in case this is your first episode or you missed the other episodes where we've talked about it. But I do a lot of like random tasks at work. Like I'm primarily in IT, but I also do like cybersecurity for clients. I do video post processing and editing. I do all reporting for like federal stakeholders.
It's wild.
Like I wear a lot of hats. We're a smaller organization, and I just have to wear a lot of hats, and it's hard for me to keep track of everything I need to do during the day. Plus, if I go into work with like a set amount of tasks, those tasks may change based off of stakeholder requirements, or shit may hit the fan with like like in regards to like IT or something like that. So it's hard for me to like juggle my day. So I've always used an iPad because I just need to document what I'm doing, just for my own sanity, so I don't lose track of what I'm doing. And then I also need to make things like a to-do list, or if I'm in a meeting with someone, I like to take meeting notes of like who was in that meeting, what did we discuss, things of that nature. And I started off using like a standard notebook. The problem with a standard notebook is it fills up and you can't search it, right?
Right.
So the iPad kind of fixes that because it's basically a digital notebook that will never fill up, and you could search it by keywords. It's awesome. You can search handwritten text by keywords. It's also really nice to have like a device that's also an e-reader and like so on and so forth. So getting ahead of myself a little bit, as you know from the last podcast, I switched back to the Fold, and they came out with this monster of a tablet, the S8 Ultra. It's 14.6 inches, and I was interested. I've never had like a really high-end Android tablet before. This one, has 120 hertz. It's 14.6 inches. It has 240 hertz polling. They promised, literally the best-in-class pen experience possible to date. So I kind of got a little curious, So I pulled the trigger on one, and I've decided that, kind of go like a little Linus Tech Tips style, where I'm not going to use an iPad. I'm going to use an S8 Ultra and just use it as my only tablet for a month and see what I think of it.
Okay, so how long's it been so far? It's been what?
I got it Saturday.
Okay.
So today's Wednesday.
It is.
And I'm pretty much already sold on the tablet itself. But I don't think everyone should be.
Okay.
And I'm not sure where to start with this. See, like my problem is, dude, is like I always fear that if I don't give something a glowing review, or if I list negatives, that's a bad thing. You know what I mean?
No, I think you just ought to be honest with the viewers, and they ought to understand that you're gonna just give them like your summary is you like it.
I do like
right?
it.
So
And-
with that being said,
And for me and people like me, I think it's probably a better buy over an iPad. However,
Okay.
if you were buying a tablet for your mother or your father, someone who's not quite as tech savvy or doesn't like to tinker, I would probably say the iPad is still probably the most polished tablet on the market.
are you saying it's kind of like the Steam Deck versus the Switch?
It's kind of like the Steam Deck, right? Exactly, dude. It's kind of
Okay.
like that's a great analogy.
Okay.
My smoke
Nest
alarms are doing a
Protect.
test. Yeah. So that's actually a really good analogy, right?
Yes.
So, for example, just to like give you a little bit of like a rundown, so when you view websites on a tablet, especially one that's like a large 12.9 iPad or a 14.6 screen size in the case of the S8 Ultra, you really don't want mobile view at all, right? Like that's just
Right.
it's not something you want. So like on like an Android tablet, you could change like the user agent. So like it thinks that the device that's connecting to a website in terms of responsive design is like a Windows machine or a Linux machine and not
Right.
an Android tablet. So then you get full desktop view when you go to view websites, which is awesome, but like my mother or your sister or your girlfriend probably isn't interested in changing build prop on browsers.
Right.
So like for them, you can make the argument that the iPad would provide a more polished experience.
Well, doesn't the iPad already do that in Safari, or is that like for websites, or does it not?
It does desktop mode, yes. Just like Firefox will do desktop mode on your Fold
Yes.
or your phone, for example. But if the website itself is coded for responsive design based off of device ID,
Yeah, it still might.
you'll still get a mobile view, right?
Yeah.
Like so, like even if you switch to desktop mode, it may make it look a little different, but it still won't be the full fat desktop website.
Okay.
And that's part of responsive design in HTML5. So
Got it.
if the website you're viewing and a few that come to mind are basically like Google Drive does it too, but BestBuy.com is a big website where like if you go to just desktop view without changing the user agent, you'll just get a larger version of mobile view
Okay.
because it still pulls for your device ID. So like that's like stuff you can change as well. I did get the book cover and keyboard with it.
Okay.
The keyboard typing experience feels great. Like it feels great. Like it has really good key travel.
It's not too thin. Like, how thick is the keyboard cover on it?
The keyboard cover is probably a little bit thinner than the tablet. It's literally the same thickness as if you've ever seen the new iPad, like the magnetic or the Magic keyboards, the one where the bottom kind of floats. It's literally the same thickness.
But it
as
is
that.
pretty thick, though. Like, I guess, which is good. Like, the only I have never used the Apple one, so my only
It has really good key travel. Have you ever used I
have the Surface
type
one.
cover?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have a Surface type cover.
It feels like
Is it
that
thicker
in
than
terms
that?
of key travel. It feels
Okay.
like that in terms of key travel, but but it feels a little bit more solid than
It
that.
looks nicer just from looking at it.
The material is nicer. It's soft touch, but it's not soft touch in like a grippy way. It's kind of soft touch in like a smooth way.
Mm.
Kind of feels like there's like a D-brand skin over it. Like it
Okay.
just feels nice. What I will say about it though is there is a little bit of flex to it to the point where if you're using it on the couch, okay,
Yeah.
and you push on like the left or the right of where the trackpad is, it will trigger a trackpad click.
Oh, interesting.
So
Well,
again,
hopefully you're
just,
not using it like that anyway.
just totally like weighing out pros and cons. I do use it on the couch a lot, but just something to be mindful of is that if you lean on either part of the wrist rest, it will trigger
So
a mouse click.
I got some questions for you, man. I
Sure.
think that a lot of people would have. So
Sure.
with it being so big, I remember that we had this conversation about the largest iPad,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the things you would often say is it's too big.
It
You'll
is,
stick with
yes,
the smaller
yes.
iPad. The big one is just too big. And so when I found out that this one is even bigger than the largest iPad
Massive.
by like, I don't know, a couple inches or something.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
this
Almost
guy is
2 inches bigger.
crazy.
Yeah.
So like, tell me how the size has impacted your experience and like whether or not it's
Sure.
been like good, bad. And yeah, just talk about, I guess, the ergonomics of it.
Right. So it definitely falls into that territory of being large. You know what I mean? Like there's no
Yeah.
there's
But
no
is
ifs,
it
ands about
awesome
it.
large or is it
Yes.
not awesome large?
No, it's awesome large.
Okay.
Okay. So like the iPad screen is kind of purpose driven. Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm going to talk a little bit about the iPad's design versus the Tab S8's design, and why I think the 14.6-inch screen works well for the S8.
Okay.
So the 12.9-inch iPad was designed for a purpose. Okay.
Right.
So the purpose of the 12.9-inch iPad is because the screen size on the 12.9-inch iPad is almost identical to an 8.5 by 11-inch sheet of paper.
Interesting.
So the original vision of the iPad was to be, basically printed text in your hand. Right.
Okay.
So that's how that's how Apple landed on the 12.9-inch iPad. And that's why to this day, the Apple logo is still oriented in portrait mode, things of that nature. And I get it, right? It makes a great e-reading experience. Apple News looks beautiful on it.
Right.
But you primarily use the iPad when you're holding it in your hand in portrait mode.
Okay.
And it's also wider, thicker, and heavier than the Tab S8.
That's weird. It's actually heavier?
It's heavier than the Tab S8.
Interesting.
Marginally, but it is heavier.
That does make a difference.
It does. So the first thing you notice when you take the Tab S8 out of the box is it comes in like one of those really nice, like almost like micro cloth, like white Samsung, like kind of like wrapping things. I don't know how to describe it, but like if you bought a piece of technology, you know exactly what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Like those nice fabric things that it comes in. Even before you see the tablet itself, like just holding it, you just kind of giggle because it is so thin. Like it feels like it shouldn't exist thin.
Okay.
And like that's kind of funny, right? Because like devices have been thin for a while now, right? Like we've been obsessed with thin and light devices for like, and I mean like it seems like corporations think consumers are obsessed with like really uber thin and light devices.
Right.
But this thing is literally like you would laugh when you picked it up how thin it is.
Okay.
And what's surprising is the iPad 12.9 and the iPad 11 feels like if you put it in a bag without a case on it and there was some pressure on that bag, your iPad might bend.
Wow. Okay.
Which if you have an iPad Pro, I think you do, right? Like
I
you
do.
probably know what I'm talking about then,
Yeah.
right? Like
No,
it just
it's
feels
true.
like the back aluminum feels really thin. This
Right.
has no flex to it at all.
That's
Like, none.
wild.
Like, I don't know if it's because it's so thin and the aluminum is a little bit thicker, because like if you look at a teardown of the S8 Ultra, the battery is like dead center.
Okay.
So and the battery's massive. It's huge. It's bigger than what's in the iPad. It's bigger than what's in the smaller iPad. It's 11,000 milliamp hours.
Right.
So I don't know if that's adding to the rigidity, like if it's just like literally sandwiched between the back plate and the glass, that it just acts as like part of the structure at this point. But like you would have to actually want to break this.
Okay.
Like it feels solid. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Like I would not feel scared putting this in a bag without a case. I would not feel anything like that. I would.
Interesting.
It feels like a really solid device.
Okay. So the size, it turns
sure.
out it's like pretty good though.
Sure.
So what about usability? So
yeah,
like obviously the device itself seems very appeling.
Yeah.
I'm impressed with it. Right. But
so
like,
I'm kind of getting there.
Yeah, go ahead.
In terms of like handheld ability,
sure.
I've actually been using it handheld in bed. But exclusively in landscape.
So it seems like this one compared, like, as you just got done talking about the iPad, how it was like a
Sure.
portrait device, but this one, because of the way that the notch is set up, isn't
Right.
there like a screen notch? So it's kind of like
there is a screen notch. It's very small. It's not distracting at all. But you get dual 4K front-facing webcams in it, which
Wow.
is pretty nutty.
Yeah, that's great.
So, what I will say about using it handheld, that kind of makes it make sense. Is I think Dave 2D pointed it out that if you run two apps on the S8 Ultra in landscape, it's literally like the same thing as having two iPad minis next to one another.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So like, it's actually really interesting. So like, here's the problem. So when you run Apple products, you don't really have a decent e-reader, because like reading things on your phone is kind of jank. You know what I mean? And then reading things on the bigger iPad isn't that great. But with the Fold kind of makes a really nice e-reader size.
Right.
I don't know if I would necessarily read a book full screen on the S8 Ultra.
That makes sense.
Now, you can do it, but I don't necessarily know if that would be the best use case for it. Now, what I did do is I set up an app pair on the S8 Ultra that is half screen Kindle, half screen Samsung Notes. So if I'm reading like a textbook, like my CISSP book or whatnot,
Yeah.
I basically have like a full e-reader size Kindle on it, and then a full sized notebook on the same screen at the same time.
Nice.
That's pretty busted.
That is
you know
busted, man. That's really cool.
So like it kind of falls back into that realm of like, this is so big that the extra real estate becomes actually usable again.
Okay. That's impressive, man. I mean, so like, so one thing that I was worried about was app support with how big it is. Have you seen some of that app jank? And talk about how Samsung Dex kind of fits into that too.
Sure. So, I mean, there's always going to be app jank, right? Like there's app jank on the iPad. Like if you open up Instagram on the iPad, you have app jank.
Yeah, but that's like a iPhone app that's running on the iPad.
Right. So like you also have that on the Android side too. But as far as the applications I use, I haven't really noticed anything. Like just for funsies, I opened up my Tesla app on the S8 Ultra, and it was literally just full 14.6 inches Tesla app.
No way.
Like it was just massive Tesla app.
That looked goofy, I bet.
It did look goofy, but
so
like
funny.
It still worked. You know what I mean? Like it still worked fine.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me ask another quick question. So one of the things you use the iPad for a lot, you just got done talking about how it was a note taker.
Yes.
And I want to know what applications you're using for your note taking, and how is the pen and everything like that compared to like Apple Pencil and stuff.
So here's the thing, guys. So there are some things on Samsung that they try to be Apple-like and they just can't pull it off.
Okay.
And your mileage may vary. This is the S Pen Pro.
Right.
And this thing is supposed to pair to your Samsung account and then wirelessly switch between devices. So like you could use it on your Z Fold or your other Samsung tablets.
Right.
And then just take it over and start running on your S8 and it will pair to the device that it's closest to. That doesn't work. I mean, I've tried multiple times. That doesn't work at all.
Bummer.
But it's kind of not that big of a deal because it's Wacom, right? So like it's based off of like that like magnetic digitizer that's under the screen.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if it's magnetized. I'm sure someone will correct me, but like it's based off of the panel that's under the screen. So you can go back and forth between devices, and for all intents and purposes, the writing works great. You know what I mean? The only problem you do, the only thing you lose by it not switching is you lose the air actions, right?
Okay.
So like that's not really a big deal to me. So I mean, I don't really care about like drawing a little back button to go back on my screen on my Z Fold. You know what I mean? I'm just gonna pick it up.
Okay.
So it's not really a big issue. But I will say that the pen input is probably on par with the Apple Pencil, maybe a little bit better because of the faster polling rate.
Okay.
Also, this is maybe more of a preference thing, but the tips on the Samsung pencils are a little bit rubbery, whereas the tip on the Apple Pencil is a little bit more hard plastic.
Yeah.
And I kind of like the resistance that the rubbery tip on the Samsung one provides versus the hard plastic on glass of the Apple Pencil.
Really?
So for me, I may prefer a little bit better. What's kind of a downside though is there is no GoodNotes alternative on Samsung. I will say that Samsung Notes is pretty good out of the box. You can create multiple folders, you can create multiple workspaces, you can change your page templates, you can import page templates. So all of that is great for me. And what I'm really trying now is because I use it for work, we use Office 365 at work, and Samsung Notes integrates with OneDrive and OneNote. Okay. So if you take a note on Samsung Notes, it'll automatically pull it into your OneNote or your OneDrive.
Okay. So that's pretty cool. I like that. So you're saying Samsung Notes is kind of like your best app right now
that I've seen.
Because I haven't seen like an
Samsung Notes is pretty solid. And if you watch The Verge, and Dieter from The Verge,
yes,
Samsung Notes is his favorite note-taking app. Period.
Wow. Okay. So, I mean, that's crazy. I mean, I know GoodNotes has been like a wonderful app on the iPad. I think it's just, I don't know, it just hits different. You know what I mean? Like,
GoodNotes is definitely the gold standard. I'm not going to argue with that. Like if I could get GoodNotes on this, like that, I probably would.
Yeah. Okay, but like you're saying, like the Samsung isn't bad enough to like where you're like
it's definitely a healthy alternative for sure. Okay. For sure.
That's good. I feel bad for people that don't have Samsung devices. Can you use Samsung Notes on non-Samsung
No, I don't believe
devices?
so. But like, what other tablet exists in Android space?
It doesn't
You know what I
matter.
mean?
Yeah, what other tablets matter in Android space? None, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So
So
okay. So the notes are good.
yeah,
That's good. Pen is good.
Pen is good. Cover is really nice. I do like that the cover covers the pencil in the back.
That
So
is
like
cool.
if you
yeah.
get the case that covers the pencil in the back, when I would take my iPad to work, I used a Peak Design messenger bag, and I could tell you that every single time I would take my iPad out when I got to work, I had to dig in the bottom of my bag and get the pencil out because it just fell off. You know, so that's definitely a positive for me. The screen is absolutely gorgeous. You know,
OLED.
You know, people say that like, oh, it's not mini LED and it doesn't have the HDR 1000 of the iPad. That's true. It doesn't get as bright as the iPad, but there's no blooming at all.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that's just a really nice. It's honestly a very, very gorgeous display. It's
Can I
very
say something real
gorgeous.
quick?
Sure.
So one of the things that bothers me when people talk about the iPad is like they flex on the screen brightness, but what you don't realize is during SDR content, you're not really ever getting that.
Right.
So it's
right.
like, why does it matter? 90% of what I do is SDR content. Nothing on YouTube is HDR, hardly ever.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not watching like my big blockbuster Dolby Atmos HDR
On your
fucking
tablet.
experience on my tablet.
Yeah.
Like there are people I'm sure that do it, and you know you can definitely. I'd say the iPad's a good device to do it on. But like, I got a TV, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I got like surround sound and shit. Like, why would I do it on my iPad? So like that's like the only time that 1,000 nits matters, and it's not during normal use. So like to me, it's like, well, the OLED would probably be better, like an SDR. Like I don't know.
I'm gonna piggyback off that a little bit because it kind of came up.
Sure.
16:10 is a way better aspect ratio for consuming media than 4:3 or whatever the iPad is. You have giant ass black bars on the iPad.
Yeah. If you watch like a YouTube video, it's like
you have hardly none on the S8 Ultra. So you're getting a larger pixel
canvas,
a larger canvas to view your media on.
Yeah.
I will say that from a productivity standpoint, and if you're looking for a true, kind of like a true, maybe I can get away without having a laptop replacement, the S8 Ultra will probably suit you better more than an iPad.
Okay.
And that's because of things like Samsung DeX, which basically turns it into in my opinion, a more advanced Chromebook where you basically have like a desktop OS where everything opens up in a window.
Yeah.
You have, advanced multitasking features that way. And what was really shocking to me and like a really nice touch that I think that like, I feel like, Google would get this wrong, but Samsung gets it right is like, so like there's a obviously screen zoom, right, where you can make the icons on your tablet or your phone, either larger or smaller, and then DeX has that same thing as well. But they're totally independent of one another. So like I could have my like I run my tablet experience like 2 up from smallest.
Okay.
But I run my DeX one on the full smallest because I want the most real estate.
Yeah.
And it remembers those settings.
That's really
so like they're
cool.
totally independent of one another. So like if to help keep things like simple and streamlined, they're in the same spot. So if I have DeX mode and then I go into display and I just screen zoom, that's independent from display, screen zoom, and tablet mode. That's such a nice touch. You know what I mean?
It is. That's amazing. I like that a lot. So like, can I ask another question about DeX? So like,
absolutely.
Do you actually, you've used it quite a bit, but like, do you end up using DeX like in like just tablet mode, like just chilling on the couch, or do you use like just the regular mode, or do you switch back and forth? Like, have you played around with the like kind of where DeX is optimal?
It's still too early to tell because I've had it less than a week.
Okay.
I'm happy I have both modes. Let me just say that I'm happy I have both modes. So
because like sometimes window kind of like a Windows like experience where you can just like move things around is kind of nice, So I guess like being able to flip back and forth is clutch.
So the way I have it set up now is if the keyboard cover is connected to the Ultra, it automatically goes into DeX mode. And then if I disconnect the keyboard cover, it automatically goes back to tablet mode.
So is the tablet mode on the S8 Ultra, is it like the Fold, like where you can multitask the same way?
It's very similar to the Fold.
Okay, so does it have like the slide over thing?
It has the slide over. It has where you can like pin the slide over pairs. Yeah. Like for example, like we talked about before, I made an app pair already that's literally half is a textbook, half is a notebook.
That's really cool.
And I save that in an app pair. So now if I want to do some study, I just pull that up, you know. And as someone who's left-handed, it's really nice that I could one button switch, so I could write on the left hand and have the book on the right side.
Right.
And then, like, if I wanted to, you know, I could bring in a third window and do a three-way split screen, and then I could bring in a floating window on top of that.
Right.
So you have all of those functionalities that are kind of, you know, kind of pretty crazy. I actually have an app pair, dude, that has YouTube, Reddit, and Moonlight.
So you can do triple pair?
Yeah, dude, you can do triple pair.
You can't do that on the Fold.
I think you can actually.
You can do triple pair on the Fold?
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it because like the two on the one side are small boys.
Oh, so it'd be like if I hold it horizontally and then I like I do like a horizontal and then like a that'd be weird. Yeah.
But on a 14.6 on a 14.6 inch screen it makes sense, right?
No.
So
makes sense.
So yeah.
That's crazy.
So I've been experimenting around with a few other, you know, like remote desktop applications to like use the S8 Ultra as a thin client.
Right.
I use Parsec, which works pretty well, and I've tried Moonlight. So Moonlight has some growing pains currently, and I'm not an Android developer, so I'm just going off of what the Discord said. But apparently, I need to wait for the new update for the trackpad support because currently the trackpad horizontal is vertical and vertical is horizontal in Moonlight only.
Hilarious.
But it works fine everywhere else, and if I hook up an external mouse, it's flawless.
Right.
So.
That's crazy.
There are some like growing pains of being an early adopter, but that's kind of expected, right? I mean, there are people on the Galaxy Tab subreddit, you know, doing some pretty crazy stuff with it. I think I showed you a picture before of that guy doing like web dev on it and stuff.
Yeah, it's wild.
But so far, it's really, really impressive. And if you're the type of person who likes to tinker and they're willing to, you know, go the extra mile to get the experience they want, I think they'll provide a better end user experience than the iPad. And that's just because it's open, right? So like you could do a whole slew of things to get things to work properly.
It's the same thing as the Steam Deck, man. Like if you if you are a tweaker, then you can make this into like the ultimate device type of thing.
For sure.
So like, I'm impressed, man. Like we've come a long way.
Like Android right now. Yeah. When I'm on my desktop, I have my S8 Ultra hooked up via USB-C as like a third monitor, and it works great. It honestly works fantastic. Yeah, and it's so seamless to the point where I could then even use the touchscreen to control that monitor.
That's really cool.
So yeah. So it's honestly a really nice place to be. It's nice to see that Samsung put out a tablet that is in high demand because. For those of you who don't know, when they first released this thing, Samsung actually had to take pre-orders offline because they didn't realize so many people were going to be ordering it. You know?
Yeah, so. I mean, this is the first time that I can even remember that like there's been this much hype around a Samsung tablet. I know the last generation was the first time when I saw DeX native to their tablets, and that was exciting. But this is like a refinement of everything they've done with foldables and their multitasking technology and everything like that. Their UI like has gone. No,
it's good.
It's kind of gotten to the point where it's so good. Like I've been really impressed with Samsung specifically with their folding phones and the Android experience on there that I'm like, you know what? I think Android's finally hit that part for me where it's like better than an iPad and an iPhone in just the right amount of ways to where I don't want to go back to iPhone now. Like, I feel like I'd have more, I feel like I would have more regrets being on iPhone than I would being on the Android phone.
That's kind of where I'm at, dude. Like, they're like, don't get me wrong. Like, having the Fold and the S8 Ultra, I'm like, oh man, there's things on the iPad that I just missed. Or
I know.
There's things on the iPhone that I just missed. But
you've been on both sides actually pretty rapidly recently. So.
I don't think that they outweigh the benefits of for someone like you and I who are not afraid to, you know, get our hands dirty with tinkering.
Yeah.
To outweigh the pros of being on an Android-based device.
That's crazy. I mean, the pros are evident. Like, I don't want to give up the Fold for obviously the actual display size and everything, but software-wise, like I just don't want to give up YouTube Advanced. I don't want to give up
right. YouTube Advanced is a big
the software advantages that is on Android, and I mean there's software advantages on Apple also, but we're not going to get into that topic. We'll be talking
we'll be here all day
night.
when it's already a long boy.
Yeah, so we ought to wrap up the Tab S8. So let's just talk about, like, if you had to give it a score, man, like, where are you scoring it, man? How do you, where are you putting it?
Right now I'm giving it an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, and I know you're kind of somebody that won't give 9s and 10s. Like,
It has to be almost near perfect device.
Yeah, it's like a 9 and 10 is like.
So an 8 is very good for me. I'm not an IGN where like a 5 is a 0.
No.
Like a 5 is a
a
5 is a good device. You know what I mean? Like a 5 is good.
So what is that? What do you put the iPad at then? Is it like a 7 then? Is the iPad like a 7?
I would give the iPad a 7.
Okay.
And
when weighed against like the Samsung tablet. Yeah.
Sure.
Room for growth is what they call this.
Right. So like
for both of them.
So like to your point before, in SDR content, I've compared it to a 12.9-inch iPad. The S8 Ultra looks better. It just looks better in SDR content.
SDR
you just can't
content,
beat. You just can't beat OLED.
OLED's so good. It's still so good, man.
And then the reason the S8 scores a little bit higher is because I can do things like Samsung DeX. You know what I mean? Like, why can't I have that experience on an iPad?
Right. I agree.
It's just...
That's what... Especially...
It's more forward-thinking than the iPad. I think the iPad's gotten a little stagnant.
When the iPad got the M1, I thought, now you can do anything. And they did nothing. So... Except they gave us, like... What did they give us on the iPad? Like, the fucking... little widgets. Okay. Like, who cares? Give me like Mac OS on this thing. Anyway, so let's move on to our last topic, man. Wrap up the podcast. Elden Ring. We've been playing it.
We've
been playing it. What do you think? Elden Ring. So you didn't play like a Soulsborne game. Well, you've played them. But
I have, but like
how far did you really get into?
Not very far. So like it was kind of a combination of every time a Souls game came out, I was kind of playing something else.
Yeah.
And like, I don't want to say the difficulty was a deterrent, because the difficulty was kind of a deterrent, but it was also, I'm going to have to invest way too much time to figure this out.
Yeah.
And it always came out at a time where I was preoccupied with other stuff. So it's kind of one of the things that was put on the back burner and never kind of shifted off the back burner.
Yeah.
And plus notoriously From Software's PC ports have been terrible.
I agree.
Like we watched a video, like if like the community has to band together and fix your game that gets 2.5 million downloads, something's wrong, you know? So
I'll say I've experienced this firsthand because, I remember I bought Dark Souls Prepare to Die Edition, which was their first PC Dark Souls kind of.
Sure.
And that game is like 4x3 by default. Like,
are you serious?
I'm pretty damn sure I had to like mod in 16:9. Like,
Square boy, dude.
Yeah, it's like 4x3, and like that's wild. So, and the resolution, everything looked like shit. But you can mod it and make it look okay and work fine. But like I tried to play that game 2 different occasions, and I hit like a wall right away, and I was like, I don't feel like it. I don't feel it.
No, that's kind of like the same thing. It's like I'm
not having fun,
Yeah, like I get my I wanted to get degraded, I just go back to work.
Yeah, exactly. But like it wasn't until I found out Elden Ring was coming out. I knew people were hyped about it, but like I watched a video on YouTube about how Dark Souls 1 was a masterpiece, and he sold me on it.
Who did? The YouTuber?
Yeah, I'll pull it up while I'm talking about it.
Sure.
But yeah, basically he sold me on it, and I was like, you know what? I feel like since I'm so sold on it, I need to like actually play it.
Right.
So I bought Dark Souls Remastered. It's funny because I bought Dark Souls Prepare to Die Edition, never played it except for those 2 attempts. Then Dark Souls Remastered, I had to buy that. So it's pretty funny. So the Act Man on YouTube, he made a video, why is Dark Souls 1 a masterpiece? And it was like 4.3 million views. And I watched it, and he sold me on it. And I was like, okay. So I said, okay, now I'm going to buckle down. I'm going to record it, and I'm going to just play. And I figured out, I did a little bit of research beforehand to figure out what I was doing wrong in previous playthroughs. And it turns out I was walking into this like graveyard with these skeletons that you're not even really supposed to go to yet. Because like the game opens up when you first get into it, and it's like, okay, you're at Firelink Shrine, and like I didn't realize it was non-linear. Like the game, you can kind of, it's like a Metroidvania where you can kind of explore different directions and things loop around and all these hidden. So like there's like 4 different ways you can go at the beginning, and I had no idea about it. So I went straight into the skeletons like on my earliest playthroughs and like just got wrecked every time. And I'm like, how am I supposed to deal with this? Like, this is unfair. And then I just gave up. But it turns out if I go to a different direction, I'll end up in the Undead Parish or whatever.
Sure.
And it's like way easier. Like the enemies are your level and you're able to get through it. It's still challenging. It's like Dark Souls is best when it's like riding that line where the enemies aren't too hard, but they'll still catch you out if you're complacent, you know? So like that's where Dark Souls is really good. And then like you finally work up to that boss, and then the boss just kicks your ass, and then you got to train up and keep fighting it. And I ended up beating Dark Souls. I did use multiplayer a little bit. Like when I got to a certain wall, I decided, you know what, let me try multiplayer, and I had some help with some of the bosses in that way. But you know, I didn't feel bad about it because it's an intended part of the game. Like you don't have to play it solo. I know some people are die hard. I think one of your friends is like that. It's like if you don't do it solo, you didn't do it.
Yeah, he's like, I want to talk to you about the game, dude. If you talk to me about the game, dude, it's cheating.
It's not, though. So Elden Ring specifically, dude, it's like if you play multiplayer, the enemies are harder. The bosses are scaled up, dude. Like they're like it's just you can get carried through some of these fights, but the bosses they're scaled up, man. I was playing with Ben, one of my buddies, and like you know, he was like, dude, I'd rather do this solo than do it multiplayer, because like as soon as you die, now I'm left alone with this harder boss. Yeah. I'm like, are you trying to say I'm shit, dude?
As soon as you die, I'm left with this hard boy.
I'm like, Dave, what are you saying? But like that's kind of how it is, right? Like you every player has to survive like that whole fight for it to be fair, basically.
Yeah, as soon as you die, I'm screwed.
Yeah, man. I was like, dang, you're right. But like he was just wrecking both of us. Like even this was like the first wall of the game. I'm not going to spoil anyone, but it's like that one boss with the cane or whatever.
Oh yeah.
So he's like a lot of people's first wall, because you can like go to him really early. You know, super early. And like I know Ben and I did, and we were like, okay, and then we got spanked.
We had that really obscure cat boy as our first boss.
Oh my gosh, yeah. You know what? That boss is kind of genius. Let me tell you. I've been thinking about it from a game design perspective. Well, that's kind of like when you see it, you know, that boss in particular is like, it moves so weird. It's like a cat statue. It doesn't move.
But it's labeled as a dog, but it's definitely a cat.
It's like, it's weird because it just floats, and then it makes like really interesting moves. You think the game's broke. That's just how it moves. But I think it's an amazing kind of first boss for people, because like they end up like all the movements that boss makes, like you can interpret and then know what to do.
Yeah, it kind of teaches you what to do.
Exactly. You know what I mean? The boss makes no excessive movements.
Very choreographed.
Every move it makes is like deliberate, and it's perfect to train you for like the bosses to come. So I thought it was a genius first kind of encounter. But yeah, we're having fun with it, man. I think it's a great game, but the frame rate and stuff is suck ass.
We playing tonight, dude?
We might be playing tonight, man. I think we will after this podcast, dude. Do we want to end the podcast so we can play it?
We might have to, man. I mean, this is a long way. It's a 2-hour podcast.
Well, it's an hour and a half. We're good.
Oh, okay. Because I started recording before then.
Yeah.
So.
I'm at like an hour 33. So now's a good time to wrap it up, man.
Yeah.
I think we'll wrap the podcast up.
Wrap it up.
Thanks for watching and listening to the Technosthetic podcast. It's been another great week. And we'll see you guys in another 2 weeks. We're doing the 2-week interval. It's kind of a nice sweet spot for us.
It is. It gives us more concrete topics. You know,
exactly. So anyway, check us out on YouTube if you want to watch us, or any of the podcasting platforms. If you feel like just listening, check out technosthetic.com. Leave comments on there and send us some emails. Leave comments down below. Tell us how you like the podcast, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Later.